what's the point of a school now?
I think that schools are not keeping up with what's happening in the world right now. But I think it takes a lot of guts from schools to actually come in and say, this is not working for the kids and this is what we need to do. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. When we're teaching content-based curriculums, at this day and age, we are harming kids more than we're giving them a lot of benefits.
If it was up to me, I would not send my kid to school.
How our schools run, they are a business at the end of the day. But teachers are overworked and underpaid everywhere in the world. When I was a young mom, I was super judgmental. Once you're a mom and once you're a parent, life changes. I was so scared of messing up, and there's no parenting manual, so you just have to wing it. No matter how much you know, there's a lot of trial and error and so on. But the concept was to create as much impact when it comes to parenting as possible, and supporting the mothers on all fronts. But when it comes to your kids, I think more than letting them fail, they need to know that we are a support system regardless. I don't believe that there's something as too much support, but I believe that sometimes when we pick up too much of the pieces, that's when things go wrong. There are days when there are going to be bad days. There are days when we're going to make mistakes. There are days when we're going to say things that we didn't mean and we shouldn't have said or done. We stop, we breathe, we say we're sorry, we move on. Tomorrow's a new day.
Hanan Ezzeldin is a teacher, entrepreneur, podcast host, and founder of The Family Hub, focused on supporting parents and families through more intentional, values-driven approaches to learning and development. With over a decade of experience as an educator, building curriculums, teaching classes, leading workshops, and community-led initiatives, she brings a practical perspective on the challenges within today's education system and the roles parents play in shaping their children's growth. In this episode, we unpack why schools aren't keeping up with the modern world, the importance of choosing the right learning environment for your child, whether kids should be allowed to fail, and the real work behind building impactful education platforms that scale.
Thank you, Khaled. It's about time we do this.
It's about time. It is about time. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show today. So, guys, to give the audience context, Hanan and I have met over the last, 2 years through obviously the podcasting community. It was Sharjah Entrepreneurship. We're both there this year too, doing interviews, backstage. And so, guys, for the people who don't know, Hanan runs the Family Hub, which is a educational platform, and it works across the region, focusing on parenting, mothers, and you guys have events, podcasts, educational courses, and all the stuff to help new parents and moms and people in that space in general. Now, I'm not a parent yet. So
soon,
so my perspective might be a little bit different to yours. And you also, I know you're a teacher for 13 years and you have a master's in education as well. So what I wanted to talk about today, Hanan, is your experience in this space. What does Family Hub do? What are the kind of things, how are you supporting parents? What are the things you've learned? And kind of touch on an area that I haven't probably talked about enough or maybe too much on my podcast. So I'm always very excited for these conversations. But before we get into all of that, Hanan, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself and we'll take it from there.
Well, I think you've said enough. I don't know what else to say. But basically, I fell in love with education by complete coincidence. I was working in marketing and advertising, which I loved as soon as I graduated from university. I was a young mom. I gave birth when I was 23, so I was very young. Most of the people around me were not parents at the time. And going back to corporate was very hard. So I used to work in the Publicis group. We used to, you can imagine. It was mornings till night. I used to wear like the pretty dresses and the high heels. And this was my life for as long as I can remember. There were parties at night. This was my life. But the reality is, once you're a mom and once you're a parent, life changes. And more for women than for men, but also the fathers change as well. Because suddenly you have these responsibilities, you have this child that is the biggest blessing in the world that you can get, and you need to take care of them, and you take care of them in different ways.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go back. It also coincided with the fact that my mom passed away when my son was 5 months old.
Allah yarhamha.
Allah yarhamha. So I didn't have that guidance that I needed at the time, and most of my friends were not married yet, they were not parents yet. And there wasn't all of this expertise and experience about these educational gurus that come in and tell you all the psychologists. We didn't have social media at the time.
Yeah, true.
But we didn't know anything. So I started to read and to learn and to take all of these online courses. And like I was the laughing stock of everybody I know almost. And Hanan's always reading. She's always on the books. She's always trying to be by the book with her son. But for me, I was so scared of messing up. And there's no parenting manual. So you just have to wing it. No matter how much you know, there's a lot of trial and error and so on. So during that time, I resigned from Publicis. They didn't think I was serious. I was on their payroll for a year as a sabbatical because they thought I was going to be coming back. But again, parenting changed me. Becoming a mom changed me completely. Suddenly, all of this just disappeared. It didn't become a priority anymore. One of my best friends came in and told me, I want you to start teaching. Because she was teaching from the moment we graduated from university. And she was like, I think you're going to be great. You're the nerd in our group. You're the one who's always reading. And, you know, I thought I was so much better than that because teaching, yani, anybody can teach. That's what I thought at the time. But the reality is that teaching changed me. It humbled me. I fell in love with the job on the very first day and I never looked back. And it was one of life's greatest blessings. I was teaching high school for 13 years of my life. I taught in Egypt, I taught in Switzerland, I taught in Saudi, and I taught here in the UAE. I started a master's degree 3 weeks in education.
Oh, straight in. You're
Straight
like,
in.
Let's get it.
I was like, no, you know what? This is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And I need to know how to do it properly. And at the time, there were no like facilities that would teach you how to teach. You're either going into it via university or there's nothing else to do. For there were just 2 or 3 programs worldwide that were giving people a chance to become teachers as after they graduated from university. I went into one of those programs. It was online, and it taught me so much. Like it was a huge eye opener and made a huge difference, not just in the way that I teach in class, but also outside. And things started to develop. So I became an IB examiner, and then I became workshop leader for the IB. I worked in the school that invented the IB curriculum, so I worked a lot in Switzerland. So I worked a lot on understanding curriculums, understanding how to develop courses. That was my thesis in my master's, how to develop integrated courses across certain different subjects. So it was, subhanAllah, it was a preparation for everything I'm doing now.
Yeah, clearly, yeah, for sure.
Not knowing that this is what it was. I taught around over 2,200 kids.
MashaAllah, wow.
Different, all in high school. Different religions, backgrounds, cultures, nationalities. It was a huge, huge learning field for me. And when we moved to Dubai, COVID hit. And I couldn't find a teaching job right away. So I started to blog for fun, just to support my friends and family with what happens with their kids, how do you support with screen time, what do you do with studying, things like that. And traction started to happen online. I knew nothing about social media. I knew nothing about editing. Like I swear, I always tell my friends, like, you guys really loved me back then to watch the stuff that I was producing because I knew nothing.
Well, I feel the exact same way when I look back at my older stuff. Exactly the same.
You know, it's like, what is this? You know,
100%.
And it's an embarrassment to watch, but it's also a part of who we are. And, you know, you understand this. It's the journey.
Yeah, 100%.
So when that happened, honestly, it was, I found a teaching job later. And I started to do this, to pursue this like as a hobby. But it wasn't the family hub at the time. It was just my personal page. And my friends started to say things like, or people that we know. And it was very weird when you get messages from people that you don't know, who ask you for advice or ask you for like a consultation. And I'm licensed for all of this. I can do that. So I went into here in the UAE. I got a license, just a freelancing license. And I started to give it like haphazard, nothing scheduled, no business plan, nothing. Workshop here, a conversation there, a consultation here, like nothing structured. But 1 year into teaching, I got promoted and I became like the AP coordinator. So my job was to create curriculum across schools, support with students. I had 115 teachers working with me, around 500 kids. It was like massive. But I hated every second of it because I stopped teaching. I had to do the admin job without the teaching.
Yeah,
I hated being away from my students. I hated being away from class. And then traction really started to hit. And I realized that women, or mothers, actually in this case, They wanted that sense of belonging. They wanted to feel like they were part of something. I started to speak in Arabic, and that changed everything because suddenly it became more relatable. I started to say things like haram, halal, this is wrong, this is
Of
right, this
course.
is what do you do. And when you started to say things like this, most people aren't. And that's when traction started to really blow up. So I made the very bold decision to resign from my job. I stayed for the year, of course, in school, but I sat down with a business coach. I put down a plan for what we needed to do. The plan, what is happening now, is very different from what we put
It
there
always is.
for
It
years
always
now.
is, yeah.
But the concept was to create as much impact when it comes to parenting as possible,
Okay.
and supporting the mothers on all fronts. And that escalated from we started doing small events, 6 people would show up, 10 people would show up. Today we're at 150 plus every event. We see around 3,000 mothers every month. Whether we're looking at courses that we do, we have a digital academy, so the courses, or workshops that we do live. I do maybe 2-3 workshops a week, or through our community events, and so on and so forth. Plus the podcast, plus social media, plus YouTube, plus all these things. So we do have a big reach of moms, and we're hoping that we are creating an empire that would outlast us with the content that we're creating.
Well, first of all, thank you for giving us that deeper context. I didn't know that I didn't know about the IB stuff and how involved you were in curriculums and stuff. So I wasn't expecting to have this part of the conversation today, but since you're here and you're a teacher, this is an area I'm very, very passionate about.
Okay.
So education to me, so my goal with this podcast, my ultimate goal is, as I've told you, I'm trying to create the ultimate free educational platform. And the reason being is I have a deep anger and frustration with the experience I had in my school and university career. Because I didn't learn how to be a human being in life. I was taught stuff, okay, general knowledge, fine, you know this, you know that, but my frustration has always been, I'm like, what if from the beginning, from when I was like 5 years old, from kindergarten all the way up through your school and continuing into university, you were constantly being trained on the life skills you need to be successful in any field, mental health, public speaking, marketing, sales, financial literacy. These are, no matter you have a business, you're alone, you have a family, like, these are all skills you need to run your life and be successful in whatever career you choose. So when I look at schools now, and one day when I have a kid, personally, if it was up to me, my wife has a different opinion, obviously, but if it was up to me, I would not send my kid to school.
Okay.
I appreciate school from the social side and learning how to interact with people and those skills. I think it would be hard to replicate that unless you're putting in a lot of effort if they're like homeschooled, for example, and going and doing these things. But from a knowledge and education standpoint, in my humble opinion, I am not an educator, I'm not licensed, I'm not trained, I'm just someone who loves to learn. But this passion and the love I have for learning now, I did not get that in school. I got that through my life experiences and got me where I am today. So let's start the conversation there, okay? Because that's my 2 cents. I want to hear, because you've been also involved in building curriculum. So you have a much deeper, obviously, understanding than I do about all of this. So I'd love to hear your 2 cents about what I thought.
I think that schools are not keeping up with what's happening in the world right now.
Okay.
And I think this is a problem that we need to tackle, and it's not being tackled enough. There are a lot of ideas that are coming up and so on, but I think it takes a lot of guts from schools to actually come in and say, this is not working for the kids and this is what we need to do. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. You're right. There's a lot that we're missing out on. Granted, there has been a lot of progress in the curriculum for most systems. And I talk a lot about that on my page. But if a kid misses school, if a kid missed the day of school 10 years ago, they would have a problem with the content that is being delivered.
True.
Today, if a kid misses school, they'll Google it, ChatGPT, they'll get it on any AI, on YouTube. There's so many great educators on YouTube, and that's it. When we're teaching content-based curriculums at this day and age, we are harming kids more than we're giving them a lot of benefits. We should not be looking at the content in terms of content, but we need to be looking more into the life skills format. That was the thesis. That was my thesis, actually.
Okay.
And that was my thesis that I did in 2013, 13 years ago. But the idea is that curriculums need to be more integrated. They need to be more into the life skills section.
Absolutely.
We need to understand financial literacy is huge. Character building is huge. Granted, again, a lot of schools work on, they have like pastoral care, they focus a lot on extracurriculars, they give a lot of edges to the students, they have like this moral education, but they have a lot of things that do help and support in character building. Teachers are more involved with the kids now, from a younger age up until high school. So when you sit in the parents' meetings, the teachers are not just telling you, this is your child's grades, this is what they are. A lot of teachers are going over and beyond now to tell you, you know what, your kid lied about this and this is what we need to teach them. Your kid did this act of kindness and we need to encourage that more. Positives and negatives. But it's not enough because it's still some teachers are doing this. It's not a school-wide thing or it's not a nationwide thing where this is being pushed. From the teacher's perspective and from the school's perspective, how are schools run? They are a business at the end of the day. This is the reality. Are they a good business? Yes. Do they have morals and values and so on? Yes. And there's nothing wrong with monetizing something that has good value. But I'm not against that.
Fair.
But teachers are overworked and underpaid everywhere in the world. Even in the best private schools, teachers are overworked and they're underpaid. And because of that, classes are more crowded. There isn't a lot of time for you to give attention to all of these kids. I used to teach, for example, 100 kids a year, right? Maybe 100 to 200 kids a year, minimum. Plus the ones that I see for the extracurriculars. Because all the teachers have extra duties that they do. You see them during break time, you see them when you're subbing classes, you see them. So you end up with 300, 400 kids a year, right? How can you give them individual attention? You can give some individual attention to kids who are struggling, but not really. So you differentiate classes, you do a lot of techniques that you've learned to do that. But at the end of the day, if somebody is struggling, they will probably be left behind. There are policies called No Child Left Behind, where you need to work a lot on that. But still, Khalid, we are so behind with that. And with mental health issues growing, so many kids are now being diagnosed and misdiagnosed. So you have a lot of kids.
It's a very important point there.
You have a lot of kids who get diagnosed with ADHD, for example. That's the most common one. But a lot of those kids do not have ADHD. They have issues with screen time addiction. Their parents are going through a nasty divorce and the kids are in the middle of it. They lost a parent and they're not able to grieve. They've moved countries or they moved schools or they've had an issue financially and they had to downgrade or upgrade. But there could be sometimes issues that are happening and it turns out to show kids who could be more hyperactive or they have issues with attention or impulsivity. And these are the three
symptom,
areas.
not the cause.
Exactly. So a lot of kids are now getting misdiagnosed because of that. And what's happening now is that there's an influx of kids who are being labeled as neurodivergent. Some are, and some need the extra help, but some aren't. Some are going through mental health issues. But the schools have a lot to deal with, and we are still teaching to content, and we're still teaching to get certain grades because that's how schools are evaluated. And when you're enrolling your kids in schools, you're looking at 12 years down the line, how will my kid be performing? Are they going to be in the top edge so that they can go to better universities and they can go to and get better jobs and continue the cycle? And that's what most parents ask for. So a lot of schools right now, if you go in, inshallah, one day when you have your kid and you go in to look at schools, in the school tour, when your kid is 3 years old, they will tell you, this is where our cohort went to university. Because according to that, it shows you if it's a good school or not, depending on that. So there's a lot going on when it comes to schools from so many different perspectives. And as a teacher, I used to push my kids because I wanted them to do good and get good grades, because when they get good grades, it's a positive reflection on me, and Hanan is a good teacher. But then as you mature in education, you understand that you can have a kid who scores a C, and this is the best that they can do, and they're going to go on being very successful because their passion and their areas of strength is not in studying IB economics at that time. And this actually happened to me. So I have a million stories about this with my students. And you start to realize that there is a student who's an athlete, and this kid wakes up every day at 4 a.m. to go to swimming training so that they can go for the Olympics and do well there. And they're going to be below average in your classroom. And it's not a reflection of you on a teacher. But you have your head of department and the head of IB and the head of the school on your back asking, why is this kid not performing in your class? Is it you? But the teachers have a lot of this happening. The schools have a lot of this pressure there. There's a board of directors because, again, it is a business. So there's a board of directors that's looking at those grades. And for schools to revamp curriculums and to revamp entire systems to accommodate all the changes that's happening in the world now, this is a whole other experience that requires an international movement.
Yeah.
Not just you and me sitting in a podcast having a conversation. I can go on for ages about this.
No. I'm first of all, thank you so much for giving even me so much more context about this topic, because I'm very upset at it and frustrated about it, but I don't understand. I'm looking at it as just very base, on a very base level. I didn't take into account, obviously I know it's a business, but once I heard you explain it, I'm like, okay, if it's a business, then my incentives are different. Then there's grades. Then are you gonna, to your point, if a kid does bad grades, that doesn't mean they're a bad kid. And Anna, on a personal level, I think it's a very personal thing to me, because when I was younger, I remember school is where my belief of I'm not enough came from.
Of course.
It came from school. But when I found that out, when I was 30 years old, I had no idea. Like, I would go through life and I'd be like, man, it always felt like you have to prove extra. This job, you need 3 interviews, Khaled needs 8. This thing, you need this, you need that. So it was just there, but there's no label to it. There's no understanding. It was just this thing that I was dealing with, but I didn't even know what it was. Then obviously through therapy is when I found out, and I'm like, oh my God, at least now I have an answer. But it started there because, bad grade, bad, stupid, whatever. And in a world now, to your point, that is... the question that I think about is, what's the point of a school now? Really, truly, what's the point of a school? Because to your point, if schools are still working in a content-based manner, sorry, I have the whole world of content of educators that I could have access to for free. That might be even better than the teachers that's standing in front of me in the classroom right now.
Exactly.
So there's that. And then there's the cost of schooling, which is going up crazily. Yet the teachers' salary is not going up in accordance with that. Also a thing. So it's like, sorry, it really bothers me, because I just don't understand. I've seen in my life, when you can cultivate a learning mindset, how far you can go and the benefits that can come. But that happened to me because of life. Life came, slapped me down, and I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, you gotta get up and fix yourself, bro. Khalas, you can't. And that's what led to sitting here having this, conversation with you. So again, this is my dream. To what you're saying, my dream is I want to be the guy to break that system.
Yalla.
And that's my long-term. That's my long-term goal. I haven't probably ever said it on the podcast publicly, but that's my long-term goal. And it only really came together in the last 2 years, because there was a podcast and having these amazing conversations. You learn, and then you have these different things, and then it all kind of came together. I'm like, khalas, I know what I want to do long term. It will obviously, You're trying to change a system that is God knows how many years old. It's built for people that used to be to work at a 9 to 5. That is graded. That is, So I fully appreciate and understand your frustrations with it, as well. But let's ask this question, and maybe let's be nice for a second. Let's try to be fair. We've talked about all the bad things that are happening, right? But what is the thing that school gives that, in your opinion, cannot be replaced yet? Like, what's the biggest benefit for school from your opinion?
Structure.
And kids thrive on routine. They strive on structure. They strive on knowing that there's a secure place that they can go to where they feel safe and they feel that sense of belonging. And when parents come in and they tell me, my kid does not like school, they're not happy, they don't feel a sense of belonging, I tell them switch. And they look at me like, we're going to switch school. I'm like, yeah, you're going to switch. You made a wrong decision. So what? It's time for you to switch. And we grew up, all of us were in the same school from the moment we went in to the moment we graduated. We have our cult. We have our, culture.
Yeah,
we have our
always
cliques.
a cult.
Really, we do.
It's true.
And then people ask you, which one did you go to?
Yeah, of course.
So that they rank you according to where you are. It's not the same now. And I have someone she's now my friend, but she was my client. And that was a time when I still did the one-on-one consultations. I don't anymore. But she came in, her kid was struggling. From what she was saying, I could tell that he could be neurodivergent, but I'm not clinical, so I can't say that to anybody. But everything she was saying was pointing towards that. Anyway, he was in the French school, one of the lycées. It's a great school. It's an excellent facility. The system and the culture, they work for so many people, but it didn't work for her kid. And she was lycée, her husband was his sister was. So it works perfectly for him to be in that system. But the kid's struggling. He's not speaking French. He's actually speaking French, but refusing it as his way to say, I'm not okay with this. He was 8 at the time. I told her switch. She's like, what? This is like the foundation of who I am. I'm like, I know, but the system is not working for your kid. They want him to be on the chair. They want him to be more disciplined. They want him to think within the box, which is all okay. It's all okay. There's nothing wrong with that system. And this is one of the schools that I respect very much. I don't mean to criticize the school, but the system didn't work for her kid.
Which is very understandable. We all change jobs in our careers, in our lives. It didn't work. It's the wrong fit, but and you find a place and you kill it. You know what I'm saying? So it's exactly the same.
And I told her it was December time when we had this conversation. And normally I don't like kids to switch mid-year. Yani, give everything the end of the year. We look at the new academic year and then we're done. So we had this conversation. I went into so much depth of different ideas, different thoughts. Where can you go? Which system works best for your kid? I told her he needs a little bit of less structure, but more routines, more project-based learning, more skill-based learning. Where do you go? Move from the content-based, rigid French system into the American system that's a bit more loose. 2 days later, she calls me. She's like, I moved him. I was like, what? What?
Wow, okay.
She was like, she went with her husband, who was not convinced at all with what I was saying, fairly, yani. So they went to the school, and then the second day they went with their kid. So the school told them that let him experience a day, which I thought was brilliant. So he went in, he experienced, and the parents saw him from the window. And their son didn't know that they were watching. And they saw how he thrived when he was doing things with his hands. And they were like, we need him to be happy. And they moved him instantly. So it was like that week, the next week, we're done. And the kid changed. The school recommended that he get tested for neurodivergence. He was ADHD. He became part of the learning support team. Kid is thriving now. Thriving. It's been 3 years in. She's no longer my client. She's part of the bigger community. She comes to the events. She's part of my membership, But I don't coach her one-on-one anymore. But her kid is thriving. Last year, they decided to put him on ADHD medication because it wasn't working without the medication. So he's doing therapy and medication plus the new school. The kid is a different person. If you see him, he is thriving in everything. He's thriving in sports. He finally has friends. He's doing well in school, well enough in school. He's calmer at home. Like everything came back full circle. But it took parents who trusted that something was wrong. I needed to make a change, and this is what I'm going to do. Not everybody has these guts. But I have so much respect for parents who think and say, this is not working for me. Let's see how it does. Schools have structures. They have routines. They have a sense of belonging. And when the kids feel that sense of belonging, everything in their life becomes positive.
So, first of all, that's a crazy story to hear. And it made me just think of so many different, things. Because obviously I think about I don't have a kid, but I think about all these things, And one thing that I don't think is talked about enough, and I think this is where a lot of schools, the current schooling system fails, is that everyone learns different.
Of course.
You might learn better by watching a podcast. I might learn better by I need to go and do it. This kid might learn better for that. And then the other side is going to tell me, okay, Khalil, but how do you create a system that can each kid to learn? You can't, right? So I understand that. There's never no such thing as a perfect system. Even with the vision I have for what I want, I don't think there's a perfect system for that either. But there needs to be more flexibility. Like a lot more flexibility, And I love that story that they actually took the initiative and changed schools. In my case, unfortunately, sorry, mom and dad, the opposite happened to me. I was in school and I was in Shrefat when I was younger. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We trauma bonded, all of us together. And so I was there from KG2 to grade 6, 7, whatever. Still grade 6. And I had friends. I was doing well, all good. Now, I know my parents had the best intentions for me, so I know that. But they're like, okay, we wanted to move you to another school. I won't mention the school because I don't like this school at all.
Okay.
And so I went there. But I didn't want to leave. But it was a much more relaxed school, not as academic. You don't have 5 exams every single week and you have to do it on the week. So on paper, it seems much better. And when I went to that school, the biggest issue I had was I never felt like I belonged in that school. Just people, some places you fit in and some places you don't. And then I ended up, after 2 years, I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. They moved me back. But the problem is, those 2 years in Shrefat would be 5 years in this school. So and at the time I wanted to be an engineer, so I was just clawing my way back, and there was I can't make up 2 years in that. I tried, but I failed. So, and then I moved to a British school, and that's when I graduated too. Now, on the concept of learning, or what the biggest benefit of school is the structure and the routine. Now, I will play devil's advocate here.
Please.
I think I could create structure and routine for my child. I don't think that is something I couldn't create.
True.
The only thing that would be hard to replicate or hard to really bring together, unless everything you were doing for the child was with a certain group to give them that thing, is the belonging. That's the key thing that maybe that would probably be the hardest thing to do, because, to your point, growing up, even now, people went Shrefat, you know the other schools, and you went there, and this is what we used to think, and da-da-da. So I till this day, I get it. That might be hard to replicate, but otherwise, I think everything else with the information, the technology we have now is doable.
You would be surprised at a lot of homeschooling communities right now that have been able to create that sense of community.
This is
and
very
that sense of
attractive to me.
belonging.
I'm very down. My wife's not going to be too happy, but
It's
I'm
okay.
very down.
Sorry, Lana, I'm sorry.
Sorry, my love.
Sorry, Lana. But the reality is, you can create that sense of community and that sense of belonging to a huge extent. But it requires a lot of commitment from the parents. This is another, a full-time job that the parents need to be committed to. And you need to know what you're losing out on if you don't commit in that way, if you're looking at homeschooling, because you do share a lot of the burden. Parents are not the best teachers for their kids.
Fair, very fair.
And I see how many kids I've taught. I failed as a teacher to my son. Failed. Complete failure.
Okay, I need to know more about this because there's always that debate that people have. Like you go to, I had a therapist on my show once, and she works with like kids, and just like you, licensed, whatever, all the things are there and helps clients and their parents and kids. And she's like, and I'm like, what about your kid? She's like, Khaled, listen, there's theory and then there's practice. And when it's your kid, it's just so much harder to do. I don't know why. I completely can understand why, but I would love to hear more about that aspect.
You're emotionally involved with your children, very emotionally involved. And your kids, you are their sense of comfort and belonging. And you're a comfort zone, which is beautiful. But when it comes to actually studying with them, at the age of 7, I taught my son, who is now 17 and a half, I taught him how to study alone, right? And I have like a full series on this on my page, talk about it a lot. I have a workshop called Studying Workshop on how do you get your kids to study. But there's a whole theory about how you do it, and it works. And then my kid started his IB classes, and he was doing higher level IB economics. I'm a lead examiner for IB economics. I train teachers on how to teach IB economics and how to examine IB economics. My name is on the board of the IBO, the International Baccalaureate Organization.
Wow, mashallah.
I wrote down bits and pieces. I didn't write down. I was part of the curriculum team that was working on revamping the curriculum for IB economics when I lived in Geneva, in Switzerland. So you would think...
I would.
You would think that my kid has this nailed. It was a huge struggle. For the first year, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be his private tutor. I'm going to help him out. It was a disaster. And I had this realization last May that my kid is scoring well in everything except for this. And I am a big factor because we're fighting all the time, and we don't fight. We have a beautiful bond. We have a good relationship, solid. We speak all the time. He tells me about his issues. I tell him about mine. Like, we have a really nice relationship. So my husband came in after one night where I was going crazy. And he told me, it's time to say, you know what? This is not working. Khalas. And we need to sit down and we need to make a plan B. So I was like, okay, school is not enough, even though he has a fantastic teacher, but my kid is an athlete, so he doesn't have as much time as other kids. So he needs a little bit of help in the more tougher subjects. So I'm not an advocate of private tutoring, but sometimes you need it.
Sure.
So I started looking for private tutors, and they know me. Most IB economics teachers know who I am. So I was getting shamed, I swear to God, from those teachers. And there's a part in the curriculum. The curriculum had 4 units. The last unit, I created a project so that we would cut off time from school time, where the teachers don't need to sit down and explain it, but it's done in a self-help project that the kids get to do over the summer. They come in, they've mastered it out of that project. This is something that is now like, it's a TM, it's Hanan's. But this is where I was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you would think. But I couldn't teach my son. And it was a disaster. So when I went to the teachers and I told them, they started like, and some of the teachers didn't want to teach him because they were worried about how I would be perceiving things and work. But I took a complete step back. I had a conversation with him. I'm like, listen, I love you very much. You are the single most important thing in my life. And my relationship with you is the most important relationship I will ever have. Right? So losing you over this is not okay. But this is what we're going to do, Yahya. We're going to bring in a tutor who's going to help you. And these are the few people. And this person, people have said very good things about her. And she tutors your best friends as well. Okay? He's like, okay. And that was it. I took a huge step back. he sometimes comes to me, asks me a few things, and I do it surface level. I look at his projects, I give him some feedback, but I tell him the feedback that I'm giving you, you need to take it from your tutor and from your teacher in school. And I've given it to them. And he is doing so well in the subject now that I'm no longer teaching him. There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of shame to that story. I felt like a failure, that I couldn't help my kid. But at the end of the day, you love them more than anything in the world. For what do I want? I want him to do well. So I had to take away my ego.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Very hard. So I had to take away my ego from the equation. It's not about me. It's about him and his future. And his future should not have me standing over his shoulders and helping him, because I wasn't helping him. I was too emotionally involved to help him. And now we have an amazing relationship back, alhamdulillah, which I'm very grateful for. And part of that is that I'm not helicoptering him anymore.
I think, I think there's so many people, parents, that could listen to that story and would relate a lot to that. Because as I've gotten older, as I said, I don't have kids, but I've just started understanding my parents a lot more, and starting to see them as, yes, my parents, but also as like people,
When you have kids, inshallah, you'll understand them more and more.
Yeah,
You'll get a version of their lives that you cannot understand if you're not a father yet.
Okay, fair. I would agree with that. Because a lot of times we would have, like, now, obviously, we have an amazing relationship, but it wasn't always the case, ups and downs, obviously, especially through schooling, because it's didn't work out the way I would have liked it to. But I've learned that, like, I asked, for example, when I was in school, I had like so many tutors. I almost was going to school like twice, you know what I'm saying? And that kind of took away my independence of learning a little bit, my agency. I'm like, okay, khalas, because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to school, then I'm going to go home, I'll have a tutor, and then khalas, my session with him, I'm done,
Anything I missed, the tutor will pick up.
Exactly. Khalas, I don't need to study more. He's going to come and fix me anyway, But what I learned in my experience through life was that, it's the failures more than the successes that really like shape you and grind you and you learn. So I went sat down with my mom, like, why did I have like a tutor for everything, man? Like, I didn't. She's like, Khaled, you don't understand. Like, you're like, as a parent, she's like, I could not see you fail.
Exactly.
So, and when she said that, I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah, that like it hit home for me. I'm like, I can understand that, but and this is easier said than done. And we might have another conversation in a couple of years, and my answer will be completely different. I'm just basing it on what I feel and know now. I think, although it's very hard, you have to let them. You just have to, because they will learn more by doing that than not. And I'm not saying let them drop out and do that. No, but like if they fail, they have to fail, and get the help when needed, not 24/7, always have help, because then because all of these things, and there was all the best intentions, and alhamdulillah, I've had a life that I don't deserve, that my parents gave me. But, you learn things. I grew up, these are the things I learned, and life taught me all of these things that, because they gave me all of this, there's a cost to everything. And that's just, the way life is.
Easier said than done.
100%.
I'll tell you a story and you tell me how you want it to end.
Okay.
Okay? So one of my favorite students ever, the kid, he's not a kid anymore, he's probably your age now, but he's like late 20s now. You're older than that.
Yeah, I'll take late 20s.
Yeah, you're not late 20s. I know how old you are. So he's late 20s now, and he was one of my top 5 across the years. And he's the smartest person I've ever taught. Ever. Okay? But he's also one of the laziest.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Usually comes with that,
Super smart, can get away with anything because he's so quick. Sweetest kid ever.
very decent, great family, very respectful. Love him to bits and pieces. So in the IB, one of the things that the kids need to do is something called an extended essay. It's a 4,000 research paper that they need to graduate with, right? So it's done over a period of 2 years, and they each have a supervisor on whatever topic that they choose. They can choose any topic in the world. So he chose an economics topic, and I was his supervisor gladly, because we had a great relationship. So we mapped out everything. The kids, they know exactly when the deadlines are, what is expected of them. We had to have like a few meetings. They had to put in reflections. Everything is clear. So he missed a deadline. He missed another. You sent an email home. I wrote the issue to the IB supervisor. We have a conversation. Everything is fine, miss. Don't worry. On the day, everything is great. Da, da, da. I didn't see a second draft, and then there was supposed to be a final draft. Chasing him, nothing, right? So the day of the final draft is a final draft for the entire school. We as teachers have a week, and then we upload it to the IB where we grade it, but then the IBO gets to grade it over us by other external examiners. So he submits it, half empty. All the graphs and economics, it's like half the grade is your graphs. No graphs, nothing. And I'm opening it and I'm looking at it, and there's smoke coming out of my ears.
Sure.
I couldn't believe he pulled that. Right? What would you do?
What are my choices?
You're the teacher. You can do anything. You can fail him. You can give him an extra chance. You can have a conversation. You can talk to his parents. You can do whatever you want.
If I'm his teacher, I have a choice?
You have the choice. And whatever you say goes. And I had backup by the school to do everything because I was completely covered when it comes to following up and feedback and everything.
I'm going to look, because there's lots of ways I can look at this, but I'm just going to look at it purely.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I know, but if I'm just looking at it purely as I'm a teacher and you're a student, and I have given you many warnings, I know how smart you are, but this is a pure out of laziness kind of thing.
Yep.
No, I'd fail you.
You'd fail you.
I'd fail him.
So we were in a room with 3 people. We had the IB coordinator. I had a good friend of mine who was the IB English teacher at the time, and me, IB Econ. So the IB coordinator told me, give him a chance. The IB English teacher told me, fail him. You love him, you fail him.
Yeah, I'm on that.
That's
mindset.
what she said, right? And that's what my husband said later on.
I'm on that mindset for sure.
I couldn't. So I called him up, and teachers don't call students on the phone. I called him up. I'm like, you need to be in my office, in my classroom in 2 minutes. He comes in, he sees everybody sitting there. And I was like, are you kidding me? I had it printed out. I threw it on the desk. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then he was like, so you read it early? I'm like, how did you think you were getting away with it? He's like, I was going to tell you in front of everyone, huh? Oh, Miss Hanan, oh, no. I was going to tell you that, oh, this was not the correct draft. And then I was going to look at it over the weekend and say, oops, this is the correct one. I love him, right? And everybody was laughing.
Yeah.
It's out in the open, yani. So we were taking it lightly. And I was like, today, you will deliver everything. We're going to stay until 6 p.m. in school. You're going to sit in my room. You're not going to any more classes. You're not going to break. You're not doing anything. You're going to sit down and you're going to do the work. It was Parents-Teacher Day by complete coincidence. So his mother was in school. So his mother was part of this conversation. And she looked at me. She's like, thank you for giving me this. I'm like, if he gives it this way, he fails. And he fails the entire IB program. So the English teacher told me, it's better for us or for him to fail when he's with us to protect him than to have him fail on his own. And I respect it completely, but I couldn't do it.
Which I respect as well.
For me, I wanted to be a support system for him, even if it gave him leeway that he didn't deserve. He went on to go to Imperial University, graduated with honors. He's doing great work right now as a physicist, so he's doing great. I couldn't fail him, but I had to give him some consequences. So the consequence was to stay late. The consequence was you're not going to go higher than this grade. I'm not going to give you any more feedback, even though I was supposed to give more feedback. Khalas, we're done. You have detention. Yani, there were a few things that I was giving. But failing completely was something that I couldn't do. And I do agree with what you're saying, is that we all learn from the mistakes more than we learn from the positives. And we learn from things that hurt us, and we learn way more from this than we're learning from anything.
Of course.
I agree. But when it comes to your kids, I think more than letting them fail, they need to know that we are a support system regardless. So I'm going to give you the repercussions. I'm going to give you consequences. I'm going to give you a hard time. But guess what? It's I love you and, not I love you but. So I love you and you're grounded. I love you and no, you're not going to get a new phone after you broke yours. I love you and no, you're not going to go to that party because you did this. I love you and I got you a gift. Yani, it's a very tough balance.
It is. Because, please.
Because my kid is an athlete, so he loses more than he wins. And I remember seeing Roger Federer in one of his commencement speeches. He gave a speech recently, and he was talking about his statistics. And I don't remember the numbers exactly, but the statistics were saying that even though he has all of those Grand Slams, he lost more points in every match or every competition than he gained.
Isn't that crazy?
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
I don't
and
remember
he's one of
the
the
numbers.
best in the world.
In the world. And he has like the highest records of everything. So when you see this, you know this. So there are moments where I see my kid stepping up after a big loss, or after a mistake he's done, or after issues that has happened in training or with his colleagues or with the team, whatever. But I also see how this has led to so many other successes and so many other success stories that are happening. But it breaks my heart every time when he is heartbroken. But you still let them do it. But I'm just talking about the big moments, ya Khalid. It's so hard to see them fail.
Yeah. And look, it's very, to be fair, it's very easy for me to sit here and say that right now. You know, I'm just basing it off what I would do right now as Khalid. But, you know, as a parent, I can't even imagine what that feels like, looks like, the emotion. You know, I've heard everyone tells me like, oh, they're so cute. And I think of everything else.
Yeah. They are so cute.
Yeah.
They're adorable.
My thing is, I think there's no right or wrong to this. I can only base my answer off my experience. Because I had almost too much support, my failure later in life hurt that much more.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that is where this answer comes from, because that lesson I learned when I was, I think, 27, and I didn't get like my contract renewed for a company. It's a long story, but like definitely I had a big hand to play in it. But it was the first time in my life that I took accountability. I'm like, hey man, this might not be fair, but it's your fault. Like, you did this, you know? That broke me. But that is what led to everything, literally why we're sitting here right now. That moment, I'll never forget it. So that's why my mindset now is more on like, I'd rather you fail and learn these lessons so that later on when it really counts, you have families, kids, that you've already had the
Stamina.
Thank you very much. That's exactly the word I'm talking about.
Because I don't believe in letting kids get away with things. And I don't believe that it's right to not have consequences.
I think context is very important, right?
Context is very important.
Absolutely, to your point. And I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, in your case, like him, the student's case, him not passing that is, he doesn't go to university then.
Hey, that's it.
It's big.
It's very big.
It's big, you know, so...
Let me fail him in my class, or give him detention, or not give him feedback. But he's not going to get the A, but he's going to get the B, which helps him pass and get to where he needs to go. Does he deserve
there, it's subjective.
Of course.
And you
Absolutely,
can say
yeah.
he's smart enough to do it, but someone else will say he doesn't have the discipline to do it. But there isn't a right or wrong 100%.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people can disagree with me, and I'm okay taking that heat for it. But for me, as a parent, it made all the difference, that moment. And surprisingly, this is interesting. His mother reached out to me a few weeks ago because she wanted me to tutor her daughter.
Keep the thing going.
Exactly, keep it going. Her daughter she's in grade 11 right now, and I told her I stopped tutoring, I stopped doing all of this, which is fine. And she's like, by the way, my son, he says hi. He was just on vacation now and break, and he's doing this and this and that, and he was sitting with his friends. She's like, I overheard him once. He said, I owe everything to Ms. Hanan because of those moments. That's not why you teach, and that's not why you do it.
No.
But there are defining moments in those kids' lives that you do get to impact. And like you said, with your parents, and you've done this, I don't believe that there's something as too much support, but I believe that sometimes when we pick up too much of the pieces, that's when things go wrong.
And this is, thank you so, it's literally that. And that's what terrifies me, or that's why my experience was so painful. Because, and now I'm like, I don't want my future children to feel that. They're going to feel, everyone's going to have their own experience. They're going to fail, they're going to succeed, whatever. Maybe I need to rethink a few things, because I can be very like, but one thing I've learned, big thing I learned in this past year, and I think this plays into it, is that accountability story. Now I'm almost way too accountable to myself, and I'm very hard on myself because of that. But now the problem is, I've noticed and I've learned, is where I was having some difficulties with like some conversations or something, I'm imposing Khalid's accountability mindset on like you.
Yeah.
But maybe your accountability level is 5, maybe mine's a 10. How is it fair for you I put you on the same level, like to expect you to be at a 10? And vice versa, by the way. Not like I'm anything special here. I'm just saying from my experience. And I want to I'm so happy by the way, I was not expecting to have this conversation at all. My question, there's not one question here that has anything to do with what we talked about, by the way.
We need to do a part 2 because of this.
But I wanted to bring the work you're doing now into this, because everything we've talked about, okay, yes, it's been education focused, but we've talked about parenting, we've talked about education, we've talked about all this, and everything we talked about kind of is built into what you're doing right now.
Yep.
So with the Family Hub, I know you work with like mothers and so on, and now with the podcast. What I really learned listening from our conversation so far, Hanan, is you've humbled my thought process a little bit. And because with these stories, as you being a teacher, whatever, it really makes, for the first time, I'll have to pause and think like, damn, like I get that. I get it. Whether I would do it or not, but I truly, understand. And I think that is what all of these kinds of stories are what has made you successful in what you're doing now, because teaching across different cultures, super useful for the work you're doing now. Moms are from all over the world, right? Different backgrounds, different expectations, and then you have the one-on-one stuff and you have the family stuff. So I'm curious, with all that experience that you've had, and now also, which is interesting, I love the podcast, the podcast always adds a little cherry on top of into everything.
My favorite thing to do.
What have you learned, I guess, in the last 3 years with the podcast and with Family Hub with this experience, doing what you do that you didn't know before?
When I was a young mom, I was super judgmental. Before I became a mom, I was like, my kid will never watch screens. I'm so good for that, I swear. And I'm never gonna do this. My kid's gonna speak like 7 languages by the time he's 7.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. You realize teaching humbles you, motherhood humbles you. Being an expat humbles you, because you realize it's more than just what's in the book. And I think what's making my workshops and podcasts successful is the fact that we are speaking about motherhood or families as a gray area. What works for you might not always work for me, and vice versa. It's okay to have a bad day. We never say that being violent or hitting or screaming or shouting or excessive punishment is okay. It's not 100%, and everything we've studied says that, and everything we've experienced says that. But there are days when there are going to be bad days. There are days when we're going to make mistakes. There are days when we're going to say things that we didn't mean and we shouldn't have said or done. We stop, we breathe, we say we're sorry, we move on. Tomorrow's a new day. This is my biggest learning. People, everybody, we all need a sense of belonging. We need a safe space to vent and to say, I'm vulnerable, I'm weak, I was not good, I made this mistake, I thought this person was great, they were not that great. I thought this person was not great, she turned out to be amazing. You learn by listening, you learn by experiencing, you learn by implementing things, trying, failing, moving on. There's so much out there to learn. I have people who come in and say, I don't need your classes because I know everything. And these are the people that I don't want them to step foot in anything we're doing, because we are learning all the time. Every session that I give, I learn so much from the moms. So much. Stories, vulnerabilities, what works for them, what do they want to hear. When we started our membership last year, the program that I had set, I've changed like 10 times. Because what I thought they needed was not what they wanted. And you change, and you need to be agile, you need to be flexible. And the beauty about things that you and I do is that, look at what you had. You had like a full thing ready, but look at where the conversation went. You're flexible and you're agile enough to do that. This is exactly it. I'm creating programs all the time. I'm creating workshops. I'm creating courses because I have the flexibility and the passion to do that. And we need to be humble enough to know when something is not working and to figure it out. That's it.
I think that lesson is why you've been able to accomplish what you have. That one right there, that to not be judgmental, and we all look, we're all human beings too, you know. So we can never not say like, we don't. But I might advise you.
No, I do judge, of
course. Yeah,
of
you know
course.
what I'm saying. Like, we're not pretending we're like,
and
know?
My friends are like, don't give me that look.
Yeah.
There is a look that Hanan has, and
the one that like, okay. I'm not saying anything, but
I am judging you. But that, and not to shy away from failing. So there are so many episodes that we put out that we think are amazing, and they tank big time, right? And there are things that we do that fly because this is what people want and this is what touched them. So there are workshops that we've done that have tanked, and there are so many that have not. There are episodes, there are workshops, there are sessions, there are events, there are conversations, coaching conversations. It's okay to fail. Tomorrow is a new day. Be consistent. The most important one is consistency. And be there. Be present. I think presence is something that we underestimate. And it has changed a lot in what we do. I do something that my husband calls a waste of time.
Okay.
But it has made a huge impact on the moms. So every time they come to a community event, I handwrite notes to every single one of them that is personalized with their name in my handwriting. If I know the person, I will give it a spin to say something about her, right? And believe me, Khalid, these moms, they keep these letters. We've had moms that kept the letters worth 3 and 4 years old.
Wow.
And they're small cards, but and it matters to them because they know that you know them, that you care about them, that they're precious enough for you to spend that time. So before it used to take me like a couple of hours, now it takes me up to maybe 10 hours to finish all of that. But the impact that it has kept with the moms, for me, is worth every single hour that is wasted, which is it. I understand how efficient it would be If I typed it
Chat.
down,
Yeah.
if I typed it down and then I printed it and I just signed my name, I get it. I get it and I understand it. And maybe if someone else was doing that, that would be the advice that I would give them. But there's something about the personal touch that we are losing right now as people. And I think when you're running a business, I mean, we look at the numbers every day. We have issues when it comes to, you know, the liabilities that we have, the things that we need to pay, the legal work, the paperwork, everything that we need to be doing to run what we run.
That 10 dirham bank account story hit home for me.
Yeah.
That was a great story.
But it's true, right? But people look at you that you are doing this and this and that, but you have 10 dirhams in your bank account. And if you want to get a bottle of water, you don't have enough to pay for that. This is very true, and this is a reality that I'm living as a business owner. But I think one of the things that keeps me going is the fact that there is impact from the work that we're doing.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping, by putting in the work day in and day out, that it's eventually going to pay off. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
We're growing at a much higher rate than I was expecting, which is a good problem to have. But with that growth comes extra costs.
Of course.
That are not bringing in enough revenue at the moment. But it is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem that's putting a lot of weight on my back. But we keep going.
Honestly, you know, the community impact, I think, is the most important thing in this whole equation. Yes, I understand as a business owner myself, I do understand the stress that comes with that. I'm in a fortunate position that is just me, but that comes with a much different cost because my time is now, or it's my time that I lose, not, I don't have that cost. But coming back to the moms for a sec, I'm curious because as we started, you know, that this part of the conversation we're talking about being not judgmental and how like that is in order to have a safe space to talk, you have to come at it with that and not say like you're wrong, but you can say this is what you do. I can't come be like, hey, that's wrong, do this. Be like, okay, I get you do that. This is what I do, you know, and just leaving it at that. It's not a right or wrong here. I'm just telling you this is, you know, the difference. But what I find challenging in the work that you do is that element, it's not only that element and it's moms. So the emotional aspect that comes in that, and you're trying to teach them. Is it tough the teaching aspect because when you're teaching something, kind of like what we've been talking earlier in the conversation, you bring all your experience and you're like, this is what I've learned and what the studies say and the research, and this is what says the best way to do it. So you have that, and it hits like all those areas like right on. So I'm curious how that experience is for you guys.
Preparing workshops is not easy. Preparing courses is super hard. Preparing events is very challenging because each one of them is very different. So when you're preparing the course, it's you and it's a digital course. So you're talking to the camera. You don't know how people are reacting. So you need to be gauging exactly what these people want. So we do a lot of focus groups. We do a lot of things to gather that information. Gotcha. Most of the workshops that are now digital are things that I've done live before. And because they're very popular, I can't accommodate them live anymore because they don't take big numbers in the workshops. They take a maximum like 12 to 15. So I had to move them digital to be able to scale. But here's the thing. There's a lot of politics that goes into it. You need to be politically correct when you're speaking.
Yeah, that's something I didn't consider at all. Very true.
Because if I'm, like my most popular course is the body safety course, where we're talking about like sexual education, what is puberty, what do you teach your kids about private parts when they're 2. But there's a lot that goes into this. And there's a lot of taboo around that topic. And there's a lot of, in our culture, and I do it in Arabic, so there's a lot of...
Oof. Damn.
There's a lot of culture, religion, shame, guilt. None of us have been taught anything at home or in school. Zero.
No.
So there's a lot of issues. You need to talk about porn. You need to talk about vault apps. You need to talk about what kids are doing online. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But for you to be able to deliver that The work needs to be meticulously done. You need to have a feel of your audience. Make sure that you don't offend anyone. Make sure that the way that you're approaching things is very delicate, but you say it as it is. This is what you tell girls when they're going through puberty. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we write it down in manuals. So we create worksheets and manuals to go with the courses.
Amazing.
But this is my job. And this is what I'm good at. And this is what I used to do
Exactly.
for years in my life.
Yeah, true.
There's a lot that goes into this. And you need to really, really, really understand the mindset of the audience. And this is extremely important, not to be too preachy. Because none of us want to be told what to do. And we don't ever want anyone to speak down on us. And we don't want to be in the classroom. The way that my events are working now is the edutainment concept. So you give the education in a capsule format, but you do it in a way that's fun. Nice table setups, a very high-end brunch, artisanal coffee and tea, a nice goodie bag, a drum circle. But I'm going to tell you how to reframe your brain in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll do it in a way that I'm doing it with colors and stickers and things that you get to stick on and the timer that's fun and blue and colorful. That's how I'll do it for you. But again, the moms who come to us are a very special group of people because parents who will pay money to get educated on parenting, on self-development, because I do a lot of self-development with the moms as a woman. They're a very specific kind of audience that will pay. And it's not about how much they will pay, whether they pay 5 dirhams or 500. It's not about the payment, how much they pay. It's that willingness to pay. This is a very special audience. And we used to have parents who come in parents' meetings, for example, when I used to teach, who would say, oh, my kid doesn't do anything wrong. My kid is amazing. My child is perfect. It's your fault. What are your qualifications to teach my child? And they would say things like this to us. And then you would have parents who would come in and say, oh, my kid's a disaster. I'm so sorry that you get to deal with them. My kid's horrible. And you have to actually start defending the kid because, no, they're not. They're human beings, you know? And then you have the parents in the middle who would come in and say, I know he did something wrong. How can we fix it? These were my favorites. Because these are the ones who are keeping their kids accountable. These are the ones who are allowing them to fail. And these are the ones who are going to be there to support them when they do fail and when they do drop. Right? It's the same with those moms. That group in the middle, this is the group that comes to me. And people like me. Because they are willing to say, you know what? I'm not nailing down the teenage thing. So I need to come to somebody who's an expert on how to deal with teenagers. So they come to me, they attend my workshop, and they have these conversations and they have these talks, and there are some aha moments, and some moments where they think, it's irrelevant to me, which is fine. But it's incredibly important to understand your audience. And for anyone who's going to do a course or do a workshop, right now I'm actually preparing a course on how to create courses that I'm giving for everyone.
That's useful.
It's a science.
See, there is a science. I know, because sorry to interrupt you, but
please.
On the curriculum aspect, because I know curriculums are built in a certain way, like certain amount of content per day, like blocked out, and then it's like, how are you building and layering like on top? How do you make it stick? What's the longevity of it? So like, I've never really dove into how you struck like the scientific aspect behind building a course, but maybe it'd be useful for people to understand what the course you're making about making courses is about.
It's very important. And I realized this when people in my community someone would be doing breathing or someone doing yoga or someone doing whatever. And they're so good at what they do, but maybe, I'm not talking about these specific people, just examples, but maybe they don't have the know-how of how to create a workshop that is 1 hour. When companies come to me, sometimes we do corporate events and they come to me and they say, we want to do a session. What is a session like? I'm like, it's anything. It could be a day. because I do retreats as well that last for 2-3 days. Could be a day, could be 2, could be 3, could be half an hour, could be a 20-minute webinar, it could be 3 hours workshop, whatever. It's once you know your material, you can expand and contract it in any way, but the system is the same. How do you start? What's in the middle? And how it's in the end? It's science. It's a science to how to do it. But it requires a lot of experience and know-how of that particular thing. And most people don't have that knowledge. That's why you go to conferences and you want to fall asleep from the people that you listen to.
Yeah, true.
And then you look at that person's CV and he or she is a genius, right? And they have all the know-how, but they don't know how to deliver it. Not everybody that has something to say knows how to say it.
Absolutely. 100 million%.
But it's a teachable skill.
It is. It's communication.
And you learn how to, you can take whatever content that you have and create something out of it. I was in a course recently, and there was a guy who I thought was brilliant. So he has one course, and in 1 year, he made $1 million. Guess what the course was? The course was teaching senior citizens how to use an iPhone.
No way.
It's a 20-minute course. Exactly.
Wow.
So you know how he structured it? I thought it was brilliant that people who gift their parents or aging parents an iPhone, this is a gift that goes with the iPhone. It's for like $30, $20. Nothing yet. If you're going to buy an iPhone,
that's fine.
That course.
Yeah.
20-minute course on how to use your iPhone.
Wow.
Brilliant. And when he said that, I was like, is he serious? And then they got him on stage later that he made $1 million in a year, $1 million in a year, selling that course.
Wow.
Brilliant. So it's anything you have, it's a transferable skill, but you just need to know how to say it.
Yeah. And
how to market it.
Of course. And one thing that's been like a constant throughout this conversation, whether when we're talking about the teaching or with the family hub or whatever, is knowing your audience and speaking to them, not what you think they need to know, what they're actually telling you, hey, Hanan, we want to know about this specific thing. Okay. And so, yeah, it kind of makes me, because I always have this debate in my head. I'm like, what's a teacher? What is teaching? What is education? What is learning? I think about these questions a lot, and I ask many people about this. Because people say like, okay, I know like you need to get qualified to, like in most places, you need to have a degree or something to be able to teach, right? But if teaching is just knowledge transfer, and like you said, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, and it's about how you communicate and what you communicate. Isn't it just storytelling at the end of the day?
It is.
You know? But like, why? Okay, maybe I can learn how to be a better storyteller. Then why do I need to learn? Because I know my story, I know the content. If I can just deliver it to you in that way, why do I need the qualification to allow me to teach? That's why I love this format. And I know that's why you love the podcasting format too. Because it's not short bites. We're going deep here. We're going in. But through this conversation, everyone's learning from us. You know? Yep. Okay, we're not telling you, it's not a class, but this is, so that, like, I consider any podcaster who's like, a podcaster who's doing something with a specific value goal, you know, not more on the comedy side, not commentary, nothing. I love all those shows and I watch them.
They're different forms.
These are kind of shows, and a lot of our friends, you know, who are in a similar space too, we are all teachers. We are all learning. So I don't understand. That's where my other I'm not sure is, why do I need the qualification then?
What we're doing is very different than standing in front of a group of people and teaching something.
Very true. Very true.
It's a very different set of skills.
Okay.
When you're a podcast host, you need to be a good listener. You need to understand the person in front of you and the audience that's going to listen, and then poke in those good questions, right? This is essentially what we do. And you need to be a good researcher because you need to find out more about that person or the topic that you're talking about, right? So these are the things. But you have no control over your audience, right? And you don't know, you know that maybe 100 people are going to watch, or 1,000, or 1,000,000. Yes? But you don't know the impact on them. You don't have a KPI with them.
True. Yeah, it's intangible to measure how significant was my impact.
You'll see some comments, you'll see some likes, some shares, but that's it. But when you're doing what I do, where I sit with a group of parents or I sit with a group of kids and I transfer whatever knowledge it is, there's a return that I need back.
Like a proof that you've understood this kind of.
Exactly. So with the kids, there's an exam, there's a test, there's a project, there's a presentation. You do it, you get that. With the parents, you need to see impact on their lives and on the lives of their kids. It might not be immediate, but you see it. And when I was doing my master's degree, one of the courses that we did was called Feedback and Reflection. The full course on that last 5 minutes of any session. How do you reflect? Reflection is extremely important. And they told you that if you don't reflect, it's like you did the entire document, but you didn't hit save. Back then, you had to manually save your work. You had to manually save your work. It wasn't automatically saved. But the reality is that you see this. I've had parents who are now empty nesters. I've had parents who were pregnant when they came in and now their babies are 4 and 5 years old. And I see the impact, choices of schools. I see choices of brands that they're using and how they're more conscious about what they're buying and what they're bringing in. I've seen what they've done with their kids. I've seen choices of, I'm not going to scream today, or I'm not going to shout today, or I'm not going to hit my child, or I'm going to teach my kid social body safety, or my daughter just got her period and she knew exactly what to do even though I was away. All of those things for me are my KPIs. This is what keeps me going, Khalid. When I have 10 dirhams in my bank account. Really.
Yeah.
This is what keeps me going because it's my core why. Every month with my members, we have the wider community, but we also have a membership where people pay either monthly or an annual fee to take certain extras that we don't give to the wider community.
Sure.
So one of the things that I do constantly, I'm actually doing next week, inshallah, is it's a session called Values. And you would be very interested to see, like one of the days, we did a few of them, but one of them was, and I gave them 25 values to think of. So it could be anything: religion, honesty, family, whatever, love. And you'd say, okay, these are values. Which one of them which ones are your values? And they say all of them, because they all are our values. They're all good characteristics that you want. Type, pick 10. And that's a hard exercise. Okay? What, you want to say something?
No, I'll come in a sec.
To pick 5. What? It was a challenge to pick 5. You're 10, you want me to pick 5? Yeah, pick 5. And then pick 3. And after you pick 3, take away that and put them in your notebook. Put the 3 ones in your notebook. And once you've done that, tell me 3 situations for each value that you are implementing this week. You would be surprised that all of us, no exceptions, me and you included, we don't do that. You would say religion is your top value, and then you don't pray. Or you drink. Or you do this. Or I'm not veiled, for example. Right? But I would always pick religion as my value because this is my core belief, right? But then I'm not doing what I need to do to be closer to God. And one of the ladies we had, she picked it and she started to cry. She's like, she's Christian. She's like, I haven't been to church in the last God knows how long. And yet I pick this as my value, and I'm not transferring that value to my children. And now she's a regular at church. But these are the things that we look for, and these are the things that we do when we work with. So you would be very surprised at the insights that you get from those parents when you work with them. But it's a continuous level of work where you're constantly trying to upgrade their quality of life. And this is what pays back for us at the end of the day.
So
Tell me, you have a story.
The timing of you saying values is actually very, very pertinent. So for context, so I've done this exercise. So I work with a conflict coach. We're working together for the last 7 months. I put in maybe by now over 100 hours of like session time with him. So we started this, he gave me this exercise in August, okay? Same kind of concept, he gave me 100 cards. And he's like, you have 10 minutes, you need to make them 20. And then 10 minutes went by, I was at like barely 50. And he's like, okay, you get another 10. And to your point, it's so hard because you want to be everything.
Exactly.
I want to be all these things. And there are elements of these things. Yes, there are many elements of these things. So we got the 20. I'm like, okay, fine. That was that day. And it was intense. Like I was exhausted after that because I really had to like, you get in your head and you ask yourself questions and is it generosity or care that's more valuable to me? But like, I also want to be like a cool guy and whatever.
Yeah.
So we did it. And then until last week, to our last session, and 100 hours of work. And every month we would work on the values and we'd go from 20 to 10. And then we kept them at 10. We're like, okay, these are the 10. But then it's not just about what the 10 are. I had to write them out. This. I wrote 10 out. And then it's not just writing them out. Then it was, on the last couple of months, it's been refining them. It's not just about like, these are my 10. It's like, no. You need to, your value, you need to read that. And it needs to be like a shot inside that like just resonates with you. That's when you know you have it. And only last week, he sent me like a screenshot of 9. And when I saw that, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, and I looked at it and I'm like, this is it. Like these 9, this is it.
Exactly.
But it takes, to your point, it's a great idea, so important. No one knows, we think we know our values.
We don't.
Until life tests you, you will have to, sometimes life will test you and you will start to realize what's valuable to you, what's not. But we never take the time in general to really, it's not easy. And you have to think and reflect, and it's deep, it's heavy sometimes. So when you were telling me that story, I'm like, oh my God, I just got out of this.
If you were a mom, I would tell you come next week.
All the moms.
All the moms come. But we don't reflect enough.
Yeah, we don't. No.
All of us.
Yeah, of course.
And these are hard conversations to have.
They are.
Especially when you face the reality of, oops, I'm not doing them. I will say that honesty is my number one value, yet I lie like crazy to get out of problems or issues.
Yeah.
But I cannot say that and do that, and it hits you. And how many people do you and I know who have done podcasts, who have done startups, who have founded communities and not continued?
Thousands.
صح. And I think one of the main reasons is that you lose yourself in the day-to-day nitty-gritties of the money and the finances and the hiring and the firing and the logistics and the legals, and you forget your why.
Yeah. And I know for you, your why, like when I was doing my research, I know your why is the central piece that all of this is built on, right?
It's super clear.
And
my why is super clear.
Yeah.
And I live my why. But I only live my why because I ask these hard questions all the time.
That you can't live your why unless you do ask those questions. I've learned that too myself,
And I stopped doing one-on-one consultations last year. And the reason why is because I sat with myself and I was like, what are the things that I'm doing? So the one-on-one consultations were my biggest source of revenue. However, on the days that I do them, I cannot look at my community and I cannot look at my family.
You're drained.
And my community and my family are my top priority. I'm drained completely. So I can't be there for my son and for my husband. And I can't be there for my community if I'm dragged into one-on-one coaching. So what did I do? I spoke to people that I trust and I said, I'm going to be bringing people your way. And starting next year, inshallah, we're going to be doing a revenue sharing model. I'm sending you your way, 20% comes to me, 80% is yours. We're good.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And what I really respect is that is not, as a business owner, that is not an easy decision to make.
No, it's not.
To throw away the thing that's making you the most money, and for in your case, non-monetary, much bigger life values, family and the community, that's a very, very, very hard thing to do. So I really admire and respect that you were able to do that. Not many do.
And we were fully booked without
Oh my God.
zero marketing. Zero. I have never once announced that I do consultations. It's on the website. Wallahi al-Azim, Khalid, I swear to God, we were fully booked every week.
MashaAllah, wow.
And I had to stop that. I stayed a little bit with clients that I've had for a while, and then they don't need me anymore. It's time to move on. Khalas.
I wanted to round off our conversation for today, Hanan, with a few more questions. This is, and I'm loving this. I could go for hours, but for the audience,
Same. I could go for hours as well.
To keep these in the frames. There's one thing I've been wanting to ask throughout this conversation is, and this is where I struggle a bit, and it's on the concept of scale. And the scale of community and the scale of impact and so on. And like, for example, the one-on-one, not leaving the one-on-one consultations to have more time to do other things. In my experience, and this is something I think about a lot also with my business, is, and maybe it's a personal thing, is it's the one-to-one conversations and the one-to-one deals, clients, whatever, that's where, at least for me as Khalid, I've been able to have them, not only have the most impact, but people have had the most impact on me. You've taken courses, I used to be the course guy, I used to have subscriptions to Masterclass, Mind Valley, I would just take courses for fun because I just love to learn. But then when I started hiring specific experts for specific things, no course in the world could give me that. And that's why also I don't like group things either. And for me, this is maybe just for me, other people might like the community aspect. For me to get the maximum value as Khalid, or advise to deliver the maximum value, it's a one-to-one thing. Okay. That's where I do my best work, and that's where so that's why when it comes to scale, and obviously you want, with the podcast, I want to build, a community around it and so on. And as you're in the process of doing that right now, I'd love to hear from you, and you hear this a lot in lots of businesses, that in communities, the communities, not what it was. The community, the businesses, the culture is gone. So, and especially for what you do, which is not only a very personal on a passion level, but you're having a very personal touch on all these women's lives. It's a big thing, so. When you scale, I know scale but the question becomes, you want to help more, so scale. But then how do you scale and still be able to provide that level of time, care, impact to all these people that were there from the beginning?
That's a very good question.
Because that's something I think about a lot.
So we're scaling through many ways. When I started the membership last year, I thought that was going to be my scaling tool. It wasn't. Because we scaled with the membership, relied a lot on self-development, and the moms want that attention. And you can't scale that.
That's the problem. I get it.
So I decided not to scale that. But what can I scale? The concept of the one-to-many. One-to-many is, I sit in front of the camera, I will do a digital course, or I gave an online course that is recorded, and that goes to scale. Low value, so the course could go for 97 dirhams. Nothing, okay? But I scale to many. Push through advertising, push on SEO optimization, and that's how you scale. We launched an app in January. It's still a soft launch. And it's going full-blown, inshallah, after December. We're still tweaking a bit here and there. Inshallah, when we do that, it's going to be, the content there is going to be either you buy the course for 200 dirhams, for example. I can say numbers, no?
Yeah.
So you can, for example, either you buy the course for 200 dirhams or you get to subscribe for a year for all the courses, which are 12 courses on so many different subjects, right? For $8 a month or 80 a year. That's how you scale. Community, we are the largest community right now in the UAE, if not in the MENA region. Nobody's doing what we're doing when it comes to the community events and the workshops and the sessions and the number of moms that we get every month. But I have a limit to how much I can go. For the last event, I had 150 moms and we had 11 people on the waiting list on the day. I would love to be able to accommodate everyone, but I couldn't. And out of the 150, we had 4 no-shows, which is nothing. So what I'm trying to say is that you can't scale that. It's already scaled to its capacity. Right? But you can scale the one-to-many concept, which is the digital courses, which is large workshops with corporates, which is the podcast on YouTube and on audio. This is another form of scale, that long-form content. This is how you scale. You grow your social media audiences, you get that reach, you collaborate with people who are bigger or the same like you or even smaller, but whatever. This is how you scale. But if we're just doing one-on-one, this is not scaling. You can never scale. How much time do you have?
Everyone only has 24 hours in a day.
And
you're asleep for 8.
And you're asleep for, hopefully.
If you can.
8 is a very generous number if you're a mother. But like jokes apart, if you can, like when I used to do the consultations, I would do 2 a day maximum. My friends who are in the mental space, who are doing mental health space, who are doing psychology and so on, they can do like 4 or 5 sessions a day maximum. And they're exhausted and they're tired and they can't do more than this. And they can't do it every day. They need to take breaks because it does exhaust you. And we need therapy for what we're doing, all of us.
Of course.
But that's the only way for me, this is how we're scaling. We're scaling through, we've already reached the capacity when it comes to community. With our membership, I intended to have 30 members by the year 1 and 60 by year 2. By end of year 1, I had 70. And now we're already approaching 100, alhamdulillah. But so my 100 is my maximum. I'm not going further than that. So I can accommodate them in the small sessions and workshops that we do. So we're scaling through the digital content and hopefully it gets us to where we need to go.
No, like to your point, I understand that that's why I was asking, because there's only so much you can, in the more intimate, personal side, there's only so much you can do. Although I believe that is where the most impact is made. The only other way to scale, like to your point, is either, that's why I've thought sometimes about, should I make a podcasting course or whatever? But I'm like, honestly, it just doesn't interest me. I think there's more enough information online. Anyone can go figure it out. Yeah. Mine is much more, I want to work with people who are looking for expertise and strategy and more in depth that I can, have an impact on. That's why I never went down the course route. But to your point, the way I'm trying to scale is with the podcast, right?
Exactly.
That's my tool. That's my tool. And I loved what you said about when you were talking about your podcast and the value that you were able to deliver through the conversations, because it wasn't a class, which made it much more relatable for people to listen to. Most that's why a lot of people do like podcasts. I think, and what I really liked what you said, that you didn't care about that, the numbers are cool, but it's not about that.
No, I learned
and honestly, people till this day, when I sit down with clients, they're like, yeah, and we want this many numbers, whatever. I'm like, if you're already approaching this from numbers, you're missing the point. And don't do it.
But the numbers are important. We have to say that the numbers are important. Listen, I understand the concept of impact and everything, but it's for you to get good guests, for you to be able to, I think when you monetize, you elevate. If you're doing it right. Yani if you're able to properly monetize your podcast, you will be able to get better equipment. You'll be able to get better speakers. You'll be able to travel to find someone that you adore and you appreciate and give that value back to your community. Numbers are important, but they're not the only factor. Okay, that's it. We can debate this for hours, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But Anna, recently, Khaled, because of the financial stress that we're at, let's be honest about this. None of us can survive if we don't have financial backup.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
How can we do it?
Yeah.
And if you don't have, you're not coaching your clients, how can you keep running your podcast day in and day out? You can't. You can't. No matter how awesome you are and how clear your why is, but sometimes your why will be your fall or your biggest fall. Striking the balance is important.
Yeah, I think my problem in these when I have these this debate with people is my experience is just unique in the sense that I do everything.
Yeah.
So that's why my philosophy is probably unfair to put on to judge, not judge, but analyze other people from, because so many people talk to me about the cost of podcasting, whatever, and booking the studio. Everything in here, there's probably
Hey, but it's not for free.
No, of course
your
not.
Your cameras and your lights and your
there's at least and now the new
the new mics are coming in.
And you have everything in here probably put in at least 60 probably.
And exactly. And you have your rent. You want to take Lana out on a dinner date. You want to pay your DIY. Yeah, you want to do all of this and still be comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's no shame at all with that. And before, for me to ask for to put a price on things, it was shameful for me because I thought there's my why and all that, but I cannot keep going with it if it doesn't have a price tag that is fair and relevant, because our time is our energy, is the experience, is the amount of work that we put in, is everything that we've learned. People are not paying for an hour's workshop with Hanan, by the way. They're paying for 20 years of experience in the education field
for this
that she will give you in an hour or two worth this value.
Yeah.
Some will say it's too much. Some will say it's too little. Some will say I'm not interested in paying this. And some will say it's just right. And that's fine. You find your audience, you find your niche, and you look for them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay. But there is no harm in one of our KPIs is our viewership. And then our retention. And then how much have we converted? So if I do a free workshop that's for 30 minutes or free webinar, what is my conversion rate? This is extremely important. And putting these things in numbers does not diminish the importance or the value of what we do. On the contrary, it gives it value so that we can keep going.
I understand. I think to your point, I guess my perspective is just different. It's not that I don't understand it. It's just because my experience was different, and I'm very biased. I have to be honest here, guys, but everything good in my life over the last 7 years came from my podcast.
Yeah.
Built a business, found my wife, spoke to over 200 incredible people, built a global network. Speaking on stage, MC. So for me, it's maybe not fair, but I'm just so biased. I just am.
I get it.
And for me, it's, everyone can go. The views aren't hidden. You guys can go see it on YouTube. I don't have crazy views, but that's my point. I don't have crazy views, but just because I spoke to all these amazing people brought me all this.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. But it's.
But I do understand, and I don't take away the numbers are important. I just think if there's a priority list, it shouldn't. It's not the number one and number two. Fine, you can put it as number three. I say number one, number two are probably more important. But that's just me. Okay. To round off our conversation for today, Hanan, I just have two more questions for you that I ask all my guests. So, looking back at your life, either personally or professionally, when I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
My family. I'm so proud of raising the family that we have right now. And as my kid is graduating, you see the fruits of that labor coming in. It's beautiful.
Well, that's something, many guests, it's crazy. So many guests come back to family, and, I wish your boy all the best. Inshallah, he gets, we'll get into that team.
Inshallah.
And for my last question, Hanan, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Just be consistent, know your passion, follow your why. It's going to be tough, so tough to keep going. It's not all roses and sunshine. Do not believe it when people say I was an overnight success. Nobody is an overnight success. It doesn't happen. everybody, I mean, I think that good fortune and luck only happen to those people who work for it. And then it happens. When it does happen, be humble in your success and enjoy the small moments that make these things count.
Well, I think I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way for us to end an amazing podcast for today. Hanan, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been, this has been a long time coming. We always said we wanted to do it, and we've done it. I've really learned so much from you today about parenting, about education, about teaching, about building communities, and so on. I've loved the debate we've had. You've made me have to go away and do maybe some adjustments or rethinking, it's what my perspective is, which is why I do this, it's just to learn and
Likewise.
to grow. And it's been, I really love what you do. I think it's so important. I'm probably will be, maybe me or my wife will be a client one.
You should be.
One
Come
day.
on.
yeah, because there's so many things you talked about. I'm like, oh my god, like how am I even gonna deal with that? But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We're here. Don't worry.
For the people who want to work with you, reach out with you, connect with you guys, what's the best place for us to get in touch?
Instagram, TikTok @thefamilyhub _ That's where we are.
Perfect. We'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes. Hanan, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Guys, to everyone listening, thank you so much for your time. Please make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the podcast at Hope It Helps Pod on all channels. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace. Yeah. Awesome job.